Howdy, we're Group 11, we're going to be presenting the Bachata. So we chose the Bachata because it's a dance and a music that is permeated throughout Latin America, something that has history and culture, but that is also changing and is still modernly embraced around the world. Personally, I was raised learning Bachata. My family's Costa Rican, and even though it's a Dominican dance, we picked it up in the family just because of how often you see it and how widely it can be used. And it was something that we used with our family in any family gathering. Here we're going to have a video of two people dancing the Bachata.
Hello there, I'm Nick. I'm here to tell you about the basic dance movements of the Bachata. So, the first and main position is the closed position that you can see here, where the lady puts her arm on the man's shoulder and the man puts his hand under the lady's arm, not too low, gentlemen, and the open position is where they clasp their hands together and they kind of alternate between the open and closed. That's a very basic version, and of course you're gonna want to 1, 2, 3 step every time you do it, and you can add many variations along those, but it's really just the 1, 2, 3 step and the open and closed position. And if you want to get more complex, you go back and forth, and then you get some spins and some slides and all fancy footwork and whatnot.
Howdy, so I'm John Carlos Wickers, and this is the history of Bachata. So as Zach mentioned, Bachata did originate back in the Dominican Republic. Specifically, it originated back in the early 20th century. It was due to the convergence of many cultures. There was, as he mentioned in class, Dr. Bustos mentioned in class, the slave trade was a thing. So there is a lot of roots from African descent and European descent, along with the indigenous peoples in the Bachata dance style. So Bachata was originally known as amar, which translates to bitter music. So it's a sort of sad song, which we'll be getting into later during the gender roles. It was originally associated with the Romantics, but it was picked up by the prostitution and the poverty-stricken peoples in the Dominican Republic at that time. So the first recognized recording of Bachata was done by Jose Manuel Calderon in 1961. That's a little picture of him here with that album.
Hi, I'm Michael, and I'll be talking about the development of Bachata music. So it has passed through several phases since Jose Manuel Calderon recorded the first Bachata single. And long before this, guitar music was the choice in many places of El Repute, which was eventually the home to Bachata. The guitar and music like bolero and son were also staples of the countryside, campo meaning countryside. And with the death of dictator Rafael Trujillo in 1961, a number of these musicians left the campo and began recording in the capital.
Hi, I'm Brett. I'm going to talk about the gender roles of Bachata. So the dance was originally based off of the music style Bachata, which a common theme in its lyrics is heartbreak and the pain of losing a woman. So it's a pretty masculine musical genre traditionally, and so the dance was picked up in, like they said, brothels and bars were a lot of locations for the dance. And so the woman is typically seen as the aggressor or as unfaithful or opportunistic in the dance, while the man is seen as the victim of heartbreak. And the dance symbolizes a romantic relationship and was traditionally more romantic or intimate and less sensual, but that's changed as the dance style has evolved, incorporating more dances such as tango or salsa. The dance can be seen as the emotional response to the heartbreak of the bachata lyrics.
Howdy, I'm Chris. I'll be discussing how the culture influences the dance. So, at first, the bachata, it was heavily repressed, especially by the higher echelons of the Dominican society. It was seen as cultural backwardness, and it was put in a negative light. So the bachata was a young and rebellious dance to do. It was influenced by its surroundings, i.e. sex, crime, and despair. These contributed to the negative light in the bachata that it had been casted in. These surroundings, emphasis on the sex and the prostitution, also explain why the dance is how to be romanticized with wild movement of the hips. Additionally, how closely the two dance together during the song, as well as the placement of their hands, indicate the large presence of sexual desires during the time period in which the bachata originated. Lastly, it was seen as a mating call, and is, if one secured two dances with the same individual, then he or she had secured the deal, or sealed the deal.
Next, I'd like to talk about bachata styles over time. So the original style, or the Dominican style of bachata, involves moving within a small square, side, forward, and side, and then side back, and is inspired from the bolero, but then slightly differently in bachata, which includes some syncopations. In the late 1980s to early 90s, the traditional form of bachata appeared, and it began changing from the box steps to more of a side-to-side pattern, likely as a result of Westerners misunderstanding the original movements. And then there's the fusion style starting in the mid-2000s, around 2005. And this style includes most of the original elements of the dance. However, it adds a lot of exaggerated hip movements and other stylistic elements from dances like the tango and the salsa.
So we can see that in a musical analysis of bachata, it follows a fairly simple 4/4 meter. The bongos are typically playing the syncopated, like African Bantu rhythms that we see so often in Latin American culture, and the guira is typically playing just a tempo, every downbeat, but there's a lot of room for the guira player to add their own solos and add their own style to it. We can also see that the lead guitar is playing very repetitive riffs that are just played over and over again leading way for soloists to kind of add whatever they want. Although being typically associated with parties and dancing, the lyrics of bachata, as referenced before, are typically of heartbreak and sadness. And because of that, the chord structure typically laid out by that lead guitar part and that bass guitar are typically in minor keys, and they modulate in very sad ways. As bachata has popularized and grown around Latin America and around the world, it's blended with salsa, merengue, and other more upbeat music, kind of changing its chords and changing its rhythms.
So as Zach just mentioned, there were some instruments that are used in the bachata. Specifically, there are at least 5 common instruments that are done each time. That includes the requinto, which is the lead guitar, if you would advance the slide. Here's a picture of the requinto. Then there's the segunda, which is the rhythm guitar right here. Then we have the bass guitar, as seen here. Then we have the bongos, which are typical from the Bantu descent of Africa. Then we have the guira, which is right here, the metal instrument, which is just being rapped throughout the song.
So, in conclusion, the bachata is a Latinx dance that originated in the Dominican Republic based off the musical genre by the same name, bachata. Bachata's gender roles show the woman as unfaithful, causing heartbreak and sad tones seen in the dance and heard in the music. Thank you.
So here are our works cited. We got the pictures from here, and then various research that we all did throughout. If you go on again to the member contribution. We all essentially did the same sort of stuff. We all did various research. We discussed together, we worked together, and then we designed this PowerPoint together. And finally, we got together to actually film this. Thank you for your time.